A beloved New York City fashion designer has mysteriously died after being found unresponsive on a boat in Montauk, Long Island. Emergency responders rushed to the scene on Tuesday in response to calls from members of the Montauk Yacht Club, who overheard screaming from the docks just after midnight. Known professionally as Martha Nolan, 33-year-old Martha Nolan-O'Slatarra was pronounced dead at the scene after efforts to revive her failed. Nolan moved to New York from Ireland at age 26 and founded her own successful fashion line, while also working as a marketing consultant. An autopsy found no signs of violence, but authorities have not ruled out foul play and are currently awaiting toxicology and other test results as the investigation into her cause of death continues. A law enforcement spokesperson told the Irish Mirror that it could take an unknown amount of time, possibly weeks or more, for the results to come back. In the meantime, Nolan's friends, family, and associates are remembering her as an outgoing and friendly community member who was always smiling. Number 27. Edward Coristine. On Tuesday afternoon, news broke of a brutal attack on former Department of Government efficiency worker named Edward Coristine, who was ambushed by a group of around 10 teenagers in Washington, D.C. During the early morning hours several days earlier. Nicknamed Big Balls among his colleagues, the 19-year-old was with his significant other when he noticed the assailants approaching his vehicle in the Logan Circle neighborhood at 3 a.m. Officers arrived on scene during the attack, prompting the juveniles to run in all directions. Police managed to capture 2 of the suspects, including a male and a female from Maryland, who have been charged with unarmed carjacking. In a social media post featuring a photo of Coristine covered in blood and sitting in the street, President Trump threatened a federal takeover of the nation's capital. He also called for changes in the law which would enable prosecutors to charge the suspects as adults, and hailed Coristine as a hero for protecting his girlfriend by pushing her into his car as the carjackers approached. Number 26. Shakia Jenkins. A Houston, Texas woman was arrested last week in South Florida for attempting to kill a former friend and bragging about it on social media. According to a criminal complaint, 29-year-old Shakia Jenkins encountered the victim at a nightclub in Miami's Liberty Gardens neighborhood. The women were kicked out due to their behavior, at which point Jenkins proceeded to stab the victim in the face in a 7-Eleven parking lot. The 2 women became close friends after meeting on social media in 2023, but had been at odds since having a falling out in 2024. While live streaming on Instagram at a later date, Jenkins reportedly admitted to stabbing the victim and said she wasn't sorry about her actions. She even went as far as stating that she should have finished off the victim and was accused of making additional threats against the victim throughout the broadcast and is being held without bond on an attempted first-degree murder charge. Number 25. Girls' trip gone terribly wrong. 5 young Dallas women were killed in Burnett County, Texas after a truck pulling a horse trailer slammed head-on into their car as they drove to a lake house in late July. The story broke last week with news sources revealing that the longtime friends, Talia Salinas, Ruby Cruz, Brianna Valadez, Desiree Cervantes, and Jacqueline Velasco were planning to spend their girls' trip celebrating Salinas' 23rd birthday. They were just 20 minutes away from their destination when the truck veered into oncoming traffic, causing their Mercedes SUV to roll over and burst into flames. The truck driver, 37-year-old Cody Lane Talley, ditched his vehicle and fled the scene on foot after crashing into a fence. He has since been apprehended and is facing 5 counts of manslaughter. According to an arrest warrant, he was accelerating at 100% at the time of the crash. Talley lacked the required driver's license for operating that type of vehicle, and the truck was not equipped with an interlocking device, which he was supposed to be using due to a prior DUI case. He remains in custody at the Burnett County Jail, with bond set at $1 million. Number 24. Tyler Ryan Hirsch. A 24-year-old Florida man has been sentenced to life in prison for a murder he committed as a teenager, bringing an 8-year-old case to a long-awaited end. The killing occurred on a January morning in 2018 when Tyler Ryan Hirsch assaulted and stabbed 33-year-old family friend Melody Victoria Bennett at her Sumter County home. He then boarded his school bus and continued with his day as usual. Hirsch was implicated in the crime by witnesses, including a school nurse who gave him a bandage for a cut on his hand on the morning of the murder. He further incriminated himself by giving law enforcement conflicting stories while denying any involvement in the killing, and was arrested in early 2019 after being connected to Bennett's death through DNA evidence. Earlier this year, Hirsch pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including first-degree murder and armed burglary. Last Friday, the judge overseeing the case ordered him to spend the remainder of his days behind bars. The prosecution praised the decision, saying that it ensures that the defendant will never again be in a position to harm another innocent person. Number 23. Zacharie Hart. A New Hampshire man's crime spree came to an unceremonious end last Monday after police found him running around shirtless in a Manchester neighborhood. Officers arrested the accused culprit, 29-year-old Zacharie Hart, while responding to a reported burglary in progress at a motorcycle shop. The later identified Hart as a suspect in a string of other recent crimes throughout the area, including a residential burglary and a carjacking. The stolen car was found crashed and abandoned on a nearby dead-end street with a metal pipe next to it, after an elderly woman and another victim reported being attacked with a metal pipe by a home intruder. Hart is a convicted felon with prior raps for criminal threatening and drug-related crimes. He faces a laundry list of new charges including burglary, armed robbery, first-degree assault with a deadly weapon, attempted first-degree assault with a deadly weapon, felony criminal mischief, reckless conduct with a deadly weapon, violation of bail conditions, and more. Number 22. Jessica Copeland. A Florida mum is facing criminal charges after authorities say she left her young son home alone for weeks while she vacationed in Las Vegas. 37-year-old Jessica Copeland's arrest came after police learned during a welfare check at her Palatka residence that her son had been on his own since weeks earlier. The boy reportedly told sheriff's deputies that he lacked the proper necessities to take care of himself and was relying on others for food. He allowed law enforcement into the home, which was infested with insects and covered in feces and urine from the family's 7 dogs. Copeland's son reportedly said that the residence had been plagued by deplorable conditions for years because his mother kept it that way and refused to clean. Following her arrest, Copeland was booked into the Putnam County Jail on 4 counts of confinement of animals without food, 3 counts of animal cruelty, and 1 count of child neglect. She was appointed a public defender last Tuesday and remains in custody, with bonds set at $25,000. Number 21. Jesse Lee Calhoun. An accused serial killer in Oregon has been charged with the murder of a 4th victim following his arrest last year for the homicides of 3 women. 40-year-old Jesse Lee Calhoun has been in custody in Multnomah County since June of 2024, after pleading not guilty to the murders of 24-year-old Charity Lynn Perry, 31-year-old Bridget Leanne Webster, and 32-year-old Joanna Speaks. He was indicted last Tuesday for the homicide of 22-year-old Kristen Smith, whose remains were discovered in February 2023 after she went missing more than 2 months earlier. In addition to his previous charges, Calhoun now faces additional counts of second-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. Prosecutor Nathan Vasquez did not go into detail about the evidence connecting Calhoun to the killing, but hailed the indictment as a very important and visible step in the pursuit of justice for the victims. The accused serial murderer is expected to go to trial in 2027 and remains a person of interest in the suspicious death of a 5th woman, 22-year-old Ashley Reel, who disappeared during the same time frame as the 4 other victims. Number 20. Thomas Wentzell. An elderly Florida doctor is going to prison for more than a decade for smothering his wife to death with a pillow and blaming injuries he sustained during the attack on the family dog. The incident occurred in early December of last year when 71-year-old Linda Wentzell was found dead at the couple's home in the wealthy Orlando suburb of Windermere. The couple was known to fight, but Linda's husband, 72-year-old Thomas Wentzell, initially denied any involvement in her death after initially claiming that he had gotten numerous cuts, bruises, and abrasions while playing with his dog. Thomas admitted to killing Linda during an argument. He was booked into the Orange County Jail, where he has remained in custody ever since. Wentzell pleaded no contest to second-degree murder last Tuesday and was sentenced to 12 years behind bars. Number 19. Trevor Lee. A Florida teenager is behind bars after police say he murdered his parents and then reported the crime to law enforcement during the early morning hours last Monday. According to law enforcement, Trevor Lee fatally shot 45-year-old Brandy Smith and 44-year-old David Lee at their Silver Point home before walking nearly a mile and a half to the Cross Point Church on Fleming Island, where he dialed 911 and said that he had killed his parents. During the call, he asked the dispatcher to pray for him. Authorities also received a call from Lee's aunt, who said that the family had enjoyed a trip to the movie theater before a domestic dispute erupted at their residence. Clay County deputies responded to the church, where Lee was arrested without incident. He's facing 2 counts of second-degree murder and remains in custody while investigators look into his mental health history. Number 18. Twan Maurice Byrd. A Georgia man is facing a slew of charges months after his arrest in February for stealing his estranged wife's SUV and hitting her with it several times. In addition to striking the victim with her Chevy Equinox, Twan Maurice Byrd is accused of strangling the woman and hitting her in the face during the same incident. According to reports, he was trying to stop his wife from testifying against him in their upcoming divorce proceedings. The victim suffered serious injuries from the attack, including a severely disfigured leg. Byrd fled the scene on foot and allegedly continued to stalk and harass the woman, at one point offering her anything she wanted in exchange for her silence. He was indicted last Wednesday on charges of hijacking a motor vehicle, criminal attempt to commit a felony, kidnapping, influencing a witness, stalking, obstruction of an officer, and 3 counts of aggravated battery, and is being held without bond at the Chatham County Jail while he awaits his arraignment, which is scheduled for October 1st. Number 17. Carlos Garcia-Romero. 28-year-old Carlos Garcia-Romero is accused of shooting his girlfriend's ex-husband during a supposedly coincidental run-in at a Louisville, Kentucky restaurant, leading to a multitude of serious criminal charges. News of the incident broke last week following Garcia-Romero's arrest on felony counts of second-degree assault and first-degree wanton endangerment. Officers responded to the scene after receiving a report about a shooting and found the victim suffering from a bullet wound to the leg. He identified Garcia-Romero as the shooter, telling police that the incident occurred during the chance run-in at the restaurant. During questioning, Garcia-Romero reportedly said that the gun accidentally went off while he was pointing it at the victim in an attempt to scare him. In addition to felony charges, he faces misdemeanor counts of discharging a firearm or other device across a public road, unlawfully carrying a concealed weapon, and fleeing or evading police. He's currently being detained by the Louisville Metro Department of Corrections with bond set at $50,000. Number 16. Janice Oney. A Maryland woman was charged with multiple crimes after police say she set a man's house on fire because he owed her $7. 51-year-old Janice Oney posted a $25,000 bond and was released from custody last Monday following her arrest for first and second degree arson, malicious burning, reckless endangerment, malicious destruction of property, and theft of less than $100. The victim told police that Oney got upset and started the fire after she came to his Salisbury home, demanding the money he owed her. She left after an argument but allegedly returned a short while later and set the front door on fire after dousing it with gasoline. Oney fled the scene on a bicycle but was connected to the crime through the victim's statement and surveillance footage, resulting in her arrest earlier this month. She's currently awaiting a preliminary hearing which is scheduled for August 28th. Number 15. Mark Gibbon. Chaos broke out at a Florida resort when a British tourist allegedly tried to drown his daughter-in-law in a swimming pool over an argument about his will, resulting in his arrest on multiple felony charges. According to the Polk County Sheriff's Department, 62-year-old Mark Raymond Gibbon shoved the 33-year-old victim underwater and held her down several times during the disagreement as she fought back and tried to escape. The victim's young daughter tried to intervene, but the attack only stopped after neighbors said that they were dialing 911. Gibbon reportedly admitted to shoving his daughter-in-law underwater, but denied any intention to drown her. He claimed that they were drinking when the argument broke out and that the victim set off his temper by slapping him. Following his arrest, Gibbon was booked into the Polk County Jail on charges of attempted second-degree murder and battery. He remains held without bond while awaiting his next court hearing, which is scheduled for September 9th. Number 14. Eric Ward. An Ohio drug dealer has been sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of murder last Monday. 36-year-old Eric Ward was convicted at trial for the 2021 death of 32-year-old Allison Lorenz, who choked to death after being beaten and having a washcloth shoved down her throat after killing Lorenz. Ward dismembered her body with help from a woman named Heather Baker, who had also been beaten and attacked. Police connected Ward to the murder while investigating him for selling drugs. While executing a search warrant, officers found the victim's body along with the equipment Ward had used to dismember her. The first trial ended in a mistrial after a juror was threatened. Ward was found guilty of aggravated murder and abuse of a corpse last Monday, following his second trial, and the judge imposed a life term during his sentencing hearing on Wednesday. Number 13. Mohamed Mutaz Elzubeir. An Iowa teenager has been sentenced to up to 10 years in prison for killing his brother at their family's Des Moines home in 2024. 17-year-old Mohamed Mutaz Elzubeir fatally stabbed 19-year-old Abdel Majid Majet Elzubeir in the neck last June, later telling investigators that he was fed up after being picked on and bullied for years by his older brother. He said that Majet was screaming at him when he swung at him with a kitchen knife, inflicting the fatal neck wound that took the young man's life. Elzubeir was initially charged with first-degree murder, but pleaded guilty to a reduced voluntary manslaughter charge after reaching a deal with prosecutors. Due to his age at the time of the crime, Elzubeir could have faced punishments as light as probation or deferred prosecution. The judge imposed prison time last Wednesday after considering recommendations from both the prosecution and defense, citing the defendant's history of behavioral problems and the need for a structured environment to facilitate his rehabilitation. Number 12. Robert Rhoades. In what authorities are describing as an unprovoked attack, an Oklahoma man stands accused of slashing a 43-year-old woman's throat on a public bus in Tulsa. 42-year-old Robert Rhoades graced local news headlines last Monday following his arrest for assault with a deadly weapon and impersonation. Witnesses alerted police to the attack the previous day after seeing the suspect leaving the scene on foot. Officers tracked Rhoades down a short while later and quickly noticed that there was blood on his clothing. He had a bloody knife in his possession, further implicating him in the crime. In the meantime, the victim is rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. According to law enforcement, Rhoades had no interactions with the woman before approaching her from behind and slicing her neck. He's being held without bond at the Tulsa County Jail, where he's also being detained on a fugitive from justice warrant out of Missouri. Number 11. Asher Watkins. A Texas millionaire was gored to death by a Cape buffalo while trophy hunting in South Africa. According to news reports from last week, 52-year-old real estate executive Asher Watkins was stalking a member of the notoriously aggressive breed in Limpopo province when the animal charged at him at 35 miles per hour. In an email to the New York Times last Thursday, the owner of the safari company that hosted the excursion described the attack as sudden and unprovoked. He declined to comment further, stating that the company is fully cooperating with an ongoing investigation into the incident. Watkins was an avid hunter, as evidenced by his social media profile, which is filled with photos of him showing off his past kills. The South African Police Service declined the Times' request for comment, but his death was confirmed by grieving family members in social media posts. Number 10. Matthew Edward Cameron. A Massachusetts man who's facing charges for ruthlessly beating a woman at Disney World has been identified as the victim's own son months after his arrest. The incident occurred last October when police say 22-year-old Matthew Edward Cameron was subdued by Good Samaritans after becoming violent toward his mother at the Magic Kingdom theme park. According to an arrest report, Cameron punched the victim in the face, knocking her to the ground and giving her a bloody nose. Viral footage showed Cameron's mother and sister crying and holding napkins to their noses while civilians held the suspect down in front of horrified onlookers. Cameron reportedly admitted to hitting his mother during an argument, stating that he acted out of frustration and wasn't thinking. The victim told police that her son suffered from severe schizophrenia and sometimes experienced hallucinations, which had caused him to become violent with her several times in the past. It's unclear whether Cameron was hallucinating at the time of the attack, but records show that a domestic battery case against him was dropped in January for unspecified reasons. Number 9. Goat-Toting pizza shop burglar. A popular pizzeria in Fresno, California, experienced an unusual break-in early last Tuesday morning when a man smashed his way into the restaurant shortly before 4 a.m. with a goat in tow. He broke 2 windows and stole 2 2-liter bottles of soda while accompanied by the leashed animal, who could be seen walking behind him in surveillance footage of the bizarre crime. The incident marked the 4th break-in at the pizzeria so far this year, and the windows will cost around $400 each to replace. While it's unclear whether the burglary was connected to any other recent crimes, a nearby Little Caesars restaurant has experienced a string of similar break-ins and soda thefts. The thief appears to be at large, and the Fresno Police Department has appealed to the public for any information regarding his identity or whereabouts. Number 8. Arizona plane crash. 4 people have died after a Beechcraft medical transport plane crashed near Chinle Municipal Airport in Apache County and burst into flames last Tuesday. The wreck occurred at around noon while the aircraft was en route to a hospital to pick up a patient. While it's unclear exactly where the plane was heading, the airport is located roughly 5 miles away from a small federal healthcare facility of the Navajo Nation, which is the country's largest Native American reservation. The cause of the crash is yet to be determined, with an ongoing investigation being carried out by the National Traffic Safety Bureau and Federal Aviation Administration. Number 7. Quornelius Radford. 5 U.S. military members were injured when an Army sergeant opened fire on his fellow soldiers at the Fort Stewart base in Georgia last Wednesday morning, resulting in the arrest of 28-year-old Quornelius Radford. The sprawling compound went into lockdown for about an hour just after 11 a.m., following reports of an active shooter. during which time Radford was captured and placed in custody. According to news reports, Radford is a hard worker, but he has a stutter and was bullied relentlessly for his speech impediment. Two soldiers who served with the accused shooter told NBC News that Radford never showed signs of anger and responded to the mockery with silence, leaving those who knew him in complete shock over his actions. He also reportedly experienced racism and had been seeking a transfer from the base prior to the shooting. Just before the shooting, Radford sent a cryptic text message to loved ones, stating that he was about to do something and would soon be in a better place. During a press briefing on Wednesday evening, President Trump vowed to prosecute Radford to the fullest extent of the law. Number 6. Carmine Faino. 2 Pennsylvania state troopers were injured and a civilian was killed last Thursday when a gunman opened fire on the victims in a rural area near Thompson shortly after 11 a.m. The spree of violence began with the fatal shooting of the suspect's neighbor, 57-year-old Lori Wasco, at her Susquehanna County home, later identified as 61-year-old Carmine Faino. The shooter sprayed dozens of rounds at emergency responders, downing a surveillance drone and injuring troopers Joseph Perachinski and William Jenkins. He died in a shootout with police, and investigators are currently working to establish his motive. Speaking with local news outlet Channel 2 Now, an acquaintance of Wasco described Faino as a troubled individual who had allegedly committed a home invasion just weeks earlier, but the claim remains unverified. In the meantime, Perachinski and Jenkins remain hospitalized in serious but stable condition and are reportedly lucky to be alive after responding to the scene and being immediately shot at. Number 5. Keelan Terrel Malone. A Seattle man with a history of past convictions for perverted crimes was arrested at a Trader Joe's grocery store last week for allegedly violating a refrigerator and threatening to kill people with a knife. According to police, 33-year-old Keelan Terrel Malone brandished the weapon while using racial slurs while entering the supermarket before humping a refrigerator and attempting to violate a customer in a similar fashion. When confronted by a security guard, he reportedly flew into a tirade and made death threats while throwing apples and kicking down a flower display. Officers responded to the scene and arrested Malone on suspicion of felony harassment. According to the latest available updates, he's being held at the King County Jail as he awaits a court hearing. Number 4. Yanin Campos. 38-year-old former MasterChef Mexico contestant Yanin Campos has died in a car accident after crashing into a parked vehicle. She was driving in Chihuahua, Mexico at around 6:30 a.m. when she lost control of her car. Campos was rushed to the hospital where she died from her injuries 2 days later. Her passing was announced on social media by her brother, Raul. Police are reportedly investigating to determine whether speed was a factor in the crash. Number 3. Kelley Mack. Best known for her roles on The Walking Dead and Chicago Med, 33-year-old actress Kelley Mack has tragically passed away following a 7-month-long battle with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. She announced her illness in January, telling her social media followers that she was suffering from a fast-growing tumor that affects the central nervous system. Her diagnosis came after she sought medical treatment for what she thought was a simple back injury. Known as a diffuse midline glioma, the tumor forms in the brain or spinal cord after cells begin to malfunction and grow abnormally. Experts don't know what causes it, and while gliomas are not always cancerous, they're believed to sometimes be genetic in origin. Mack passed away peacefully in her hometown of Cincinnati, with family members by her side, according to an Instagram post from her sister announcing her death. Number 2. Quinten Kight. An accused drunk boater is facing criminal charges after he fatally struck a young girl on Harris Lake in North Carolina, which is located roughly 25 miles outside of Raleigh. 40-year-old Quinten Kight was driving his girlfriend's boat when he hit a group of swimmers, killing Brooklyn Carroll and leaving 41-year-old Jennifer Stell badly injured. While searching the boat, police found 39 empty beer cans, including 7 that had been shotgunned. Kight performed poorly on a field sobriety test and was subsequently arrested on suspicion of serious injury by impaired boating, operating a boat in a reckless manner, felony boating while impaired, and misdemeanor boating while impaired. An elevated second-degree murder charge could be forthcoming, according to prosecutors. During a court hearing last Tuesday, his bond was set at $250,000. Kite's girlfriend, 56-year-old Anne-Marie Flanagan, is facing 2 felony counts of boating while impaired and 1 misdemeanor charge of boating while impaired. She was booked into custody in lieu of $500,000 bond. Number 1. Austin Drummond. An accused quadruple murderer has been captured in Tennessee following a days-long manhunt. His arrest came after a civilian, Ricardo Contreras, spotted him in a wooded area while painting a house. in Jackson and called 911. Officers took Drummond into custody roughly 15 minutes after the call came in. Drummond is accused of murdering 21-year-old Matthew Wilson, 20-year-old Adriana Williams, 38-year-old Courtney Rose, and a teenager named Braden Williams in late July. The victims' bodies were discovered after Williams and Wilson's infant daughter was found abandoned in a car seat in a stranger's front yard. His motive for the crime remains unknown, but authorities do not believe the crime was a random act of violence. 3 alleged accomplices have been charged with accessory after the fact for allegedly helping Drummond flee from law enforcement. Drummond faces 10 charges, including first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and being a felon in possession of a weapon.